Okay, this lesson is much more straightforward. We are learning the reflexive pronouns and reflexive possessive adjectives. Two things. And the new information here, the new paradigms, are the third person, the one that refers not to me, not to us, which would be the first person, not to you, y'all, the second person, but the third person. How you say himself or his own something. Okay? We're gonna do the pronouns first because that's more straightforward. It's more or less how it more or less works the same way it does in English. And then we'll do the possessive adjective because, as we've talked about, possessive adjective is a little bit different. We use the possessive pronoun in English. They use an adjective to communicate possession in that way. So let's do the pronoun first. If we have this sentence, pulsat eum, he, she, it, Steve hits him, right? This is the accusative singular masculine personal pronoun. And Latin has a way of saying he, she, it, Steve hits himself that is different from this, which means that the eum, the antecedent of eum, whoever this refers to, cannot be the subject of pulsat. So this sentence cannot mean he hits himself. It has to be he hits someone other than himself. Eum does that because there is this form se, which is the accusative, reflexive, third person pronoun. The reflexive, third person pronoun in the accusative case. Pulsat se is he, she, it, Steve hits him, her, them, self. Its self would also count if something hits itself. So we have the reflexive pronoun in the accusative and the personal pronoun in the accusative. They're both third person. They're both referring out to something else because I'm speaking. I'm saying this, that he hits himself. So the subject is not the speaker. It's not me. It's someone else. But this is someone other than the subject, and this is always referring back to the subject. Now check the forms for this. It doesn't exist in the nominative, and outside of the nominative, it functions or it declines like ego or to. You'll see that there's you have me, te, se for the accusatives. You have tui and sui for the datives. So look at those. You'll find that the reflexive pronoun behaves outside of the nominative because the nominative is totally unpredictable and there is no nominative for reflexive. Outside of the nominative, the reflexive pronoun behaves like ego or to. Okay, so that was the easier of the two. This next one's easy too, which is you've learned this adjective meus and tuus as well. I won't write both of them up here. Meus a This is the possessive adjective. If you want to say my sword, in English you use this personal pronoun, the possessive personal pronoun my. Latin does not use its genitive personal pronoun that way. Instead, it uses a possessive adjective. You will decline this adjective to match the noun that's being possessed. So meus gladius, or if it was an accusative, like he gave me my sword, we would say dedit, he gave, meum gladium. So we're declining meum to match, to describe that adjective, to describe the noun. We're declining the adjective to describe the noun, to match the noun. There is a possessive, third person, reflexive adjective as well. And that is going to behave exactly like meus. Suus, so this is going to decline and it's going to be his own, her own, its own, necessarily referring back to the subject of that sentence. So suus gladius would be his own sword in some context where we're already specifying a different subject. Probably more likely we'd say something like dedit suum gladium. He gave his own sword amico to his friend, right? So he gave his own sword to his friend, not he giving the friend's sword back, right? For that you would use eius. So this is a place where they do use the pronoun for possession in the third person when you're referring to someone other than the subject. So suum gladium as opposed to gladium eius. That gladium eius would be he gives his sword back to his friend. His referring to anyone other than the subject, probably here referring to the friend. He gives the friend sword back to the friend, right? Eius gladium. As opposed to, and notice this is a genitive eius pronoun. So this is not an adjective. It's not behaving like an adjective. It's behaving like a pronoun. This is in the genitive case down here. And here, this is an adjective. So it's going to modify. It's going to change to modify to match the noun. So sua rosa, suus gladius, or suum hortum, his own garden, right? So the confusing bit is the fact that you use the pronoun to describe possession for a third person other than the subject, and you use the possessive adjective like meus and tuus to describe possession for the subject in a reflexive context. This chapter also introduces ipse, the intensifier. These are super easy to memorize. They look just like illa, look just like ista, slightly like hawk, but a little less. It's another use adjective, and it's just going to match the noun it's intensifying. We can talk more about that in class. Just look over that paradigm. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to translate.